I tell clients all the time, tell me your last 6 months of your life. I'll tell you the next 6 years and nothing changes.
Hold on. Say that again. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, Simone, Nicole here.
Can you start over? I was scratching my head.
Yeah, you was looking down at your phone, too. Hello, everybody. It's your girl, Simone, Nicole here. Back at it again with yet another video, and today I have a guest. This is my brother, Jeremy. We just recorded a podcast for Swipe Talk. I want to introduce my brother as one way, and he wants to introduce himself as another way, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
You go first.
No, because you say, I'm a human first, and then a therapist second.
I'm Simone's brother, Jeremy.
Period. And
I'm here from Denver, Colorado.
Why are you doing me like this? My brother is specifically here on my channel because he is a therapist.
Oh.
And like we did not plan all of this. He's like, oh, that's why I'm here. He's specifically here because he's a therapist, and I wanted to bring a resource to you guys to like actually talk about mental health from a professional standpoint. And also, I get a lot of comments about how I model very healthy thinking. Almost that I model like it's like I give myself cognitive behavioral therapy. And I told him that. Make that face towards the camera. Because I told him that and he was like, Well, we're going to get into like therapy stigma because I think that a lot of my audience looks like me. Like my demographic here is a lot more like young, Black.
Right.
Not all, but a good portion.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about all of like the stigma with therapy. We're going to talk about like, is it possible to give yourself therapy, which he has a very, very strong opinion on, and resources, ways you can get therapy. Yeah, correct? Absolutely. All right. If you would like to hear all of that, then just please keep watching. Let's start out with your journey as a therapist.
My journey as a therapist?
How did you start out?
I don't know. I tripped and fell into therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I moved to South Florida, kind of wanted to get out of an industry that I was in. And I was on Google looking for like different career paths, and social work sounded cool, and ended up getting to school, undergrad. Grad school, I had an opportunity to work for a company that kind of advanced my career super fast, and then here I am.
I want to talk about how it feels to be a Black man in this
space.
Yeah.
I think about it often. I think about like I'm very conscious on like everything I do is very strategic.
Okay.
Where like representation matters, but I think representation alone doesn't mean that it's a cool thing. So you got to be competent, and you got to know what you're doing. You got to be able to actually provide services to clients that are actually getting better and finding value within what you're doing. It's cool. I do a lot of like meetings. I do a lot of dinners and luncheon, and where I live at, it's not very diverse. So it's cool kind of being that one guy that walks in that looks different. Yeah. That got locks and usually doesn't have a shirt and tie on. But it's pretty cool kind of challenging the stigma of what therapy is and what therapy looks like.
Yeah, because we talked about this on the podcast. You don't look like a therapist.
I don't.
We're not going to keep on doing this. No, you do not look like a therapist. I don't think you look like a therapist. I wouldn't look at you and think therapist. The archetype to it is very particular, right? And that kind of gets us into like stigmas. I think that my audience, I've cultivated a pretty like open audience, just more open-minded. Let's say that. But I feel like there is so much stigma even now to going to therapy. The biggest thing I hear is I don't want to tell somebody my business. Right. Why do I need to do that? Or like I'm my own therapist. I hear that a lot. Or just like, what is it needed for? And also like I know that that person that's sitting across from me will never be able to understand how I feel or what I'm going through. Right. I know I just threw a lot at you, but what are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I can see both sides. Is therapy necessary? No. Is going to the gym necessary? No.
That's a good analogy. It was. That's a good parallel. Yeah. Period.
Getting a yearly physical or getting your teeth clean, like those things, are they necessary to survive as humans? No. But I think that if you find a therapist that's like competent, that loves what they do, and that are like in a space that you think you need help with, then like therapy isn't meant to like hurt. I don't go to the gym because I want to feel worse. I go to the gym because maybe, just maybe 10 minutes on a treadmill 5 days a week is going to help me in some way.
And you know what? It's interesting that you make the gym parallel, because a lot of people don't like going to the gym because they're doing things that they dislike. Like, because the gym is modeled for them in a very particular way. It's running on a treadmill for 10 miles. It's lifting all these heavy weights, and you're uncomfortable doing that, instead of people understanding that you have to find a gym routine that you actually like. Absolutely. And that you are comfortable with, that's sustainable. And I feel like with the therapist, it's not about just going to the yellow pages, going like this and just picking the therapist. It's like you have to kind of like not date therapists, but I hear that too a lot. Like you kind of have to date around to figure out what you like. Because I didn't like my first therapist.
I think when it's a good fit, when it's not a good fit.
That's true.
And I think a lot of times in life we go, well, this person can help me, but like it's a relationship. Therapy is nothing more to be in the beginning, but a relationship with the client, a relationship with the therapist. You know, clients don't come back because, using your words, because I'm like an expert at CBT.
Okay. Cognitive behavioral therapy.
They come back because of the person and they see some type of value that I can bring to their life.
Okay.
So it's not that I'm the smartest therapist in the room. Clients come back because they like you.
What do you say to people that feel like they can give themselves therapy?
It's like trying to give yourself heart surgery or something like that.
Why would you take it that far?
I don't know.
But that's deep. That's deep. I want to know. I do think it's insane when people say that. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think it's actually insane.
Okay. I'm glad we agree on that.
Yeah, no. I'm just bringing it up to say that is something that I commonly hear. Like, I'm my own therapist. I got myself.
Right. So it's like if I'm having these distorted thoughts, I'm running my distorted thoughts past my distorted thoughts. So how does that align?
What do you
for
do?
healthy?
How do you actually
so
develop?
You're constantly in collision with something.
Well, you know what? I think that because people think that therapy is just talking things out, they think they're giving themselves therapy because they talk things out with themselves.
And that's the thing of therapy, where it's like anything like traditional process therapy. Let me just talk about it without actually somebody reflecting things back to me. For me, I talk. I'm gonna tell you the truth. And
that's something we were standing in the Starbucks line earlier, and we were talking about like what a session looks like, because again, like with so much access, social media and all of that, we have such a skewed vision of like what even a therapy session looks like. Because I get either way, where people will say like a therapist is a yes man, and all they do is sit there and say, I hear you. Okay, that's valid. Or they expect for the therapist to tell them every single thing that they're doing wrong and to fix everything and to basically live their life for them. What does a therapy session actually look like? Not just with you, but just like in general. What should a healthy therapy session look like?
I mean, healthy therapy session should be like relax, for one.
Okay.
When I have clients come to my office, the first question isn't like, well, what do you want to process this week, or let's process. No, it's like we start talking about the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl.
We start talking about.
At first, I thought you said stripper pole. I said, why the fuck did you talk about stripper pole? Who's your client?
Or we talk about like the new shoes that they got on. Or we talk about some new music that came out. Or we talk about like the weather, like if they're taking a trip, or if I was out of town. Like we talk about things that are like about the human interaction before we kind of get into some actual deep therapy things.
Okay.
It's my job to make this as comfortable as possible.
You also said that you tell your clients what you think.
Yeah.
My experience in therapy, I think that my therapist let me, the one that I liked.
The first therapist?
No.
Okay.
Second therapist. We're going to ignore the first therapist. Shout out to her. We're going to ignore her. My second therapist, she listened a lot and like reflected like what I said so that I could hear it out of someone else's mouth. And that was helpful, one. And then two, eventually she would be like, so do you hear the through lines and what you're saying? And she would identify through lines. Right. And then eventually, if I wasn't getting there, then she would be like, well, this is what I see going on.
Right.
How does that sit with you? And I loved that. So I think that it was a lot of me coming to my own, but but she facilitated a lot of it for me. Are you more aggressive than that?
I think that certain clients need certain things.
Okay. So like not every child being the same.
Correct. If it's a client that's like struggling with life, with some deep-rooted trauma issues, that doesn't have the ability to make rational decisions and lead their actual life, I'm a little more directive.
Okay.
Because clients want direction and clients want change.
Okay.
I tell clients all the time, tell me your last 6 months of your life. I'll tell you the next 6 years and nothing changes.
Hold on. Say that again. Tell me what the last 6 months of your life.
Tell me your last 6 months of your life, and I'll probably be able to tell you the next 6 years if you do nothing.
That's real deep.
Because nothing changes. What changes is the car changes, the job changes, the apartment changes.
But you don't change.
The partner change. But it's the same
cyclical
cycle of behaviors. And for me, it's my job to stand in the way of that behavior to stop it. Clients want to actually hear, like, what is the process of me kind of getting out of this cycle? So I always start with like, what's the perfect life for you to look like?
Okay. It's
called the miracle question. In a perfect world, what do you want your life to look like? And they say they want a healthy, happy relationship, but they're cheating on their partner. I'm gonna say, homie,
your actions don't align with what you want.
What are you doing?
Is that giving self-sabotage?
It depends. If it's from a place of trauma, then no. But like, when has somebody actually sat in a room with the client? Like, clients I work with usually are Black men. But when has a Black man ever sat across from a client and say, hey, you fucking up? And actually mean it with empathy, with love, I had a session today. I told the client I'm going to call him before a meeting on Thursday. He said, oh, you really do care, huh? Black dude.
I mean, because black men are not, me talking to a black man telling a black man's experience, black men are not used to that level of concern.
Exactly. Connection, vulnerability. So like, I'm going to tell you if you do something that goes against what you really want for your life. And I'm not going to sugarcoat, I'm going to tell you the truth.
I want to talk about how to be in a healthy relationship after you have only ever been in toxic ones. I will use like myself as an example. I went through 2 years of therapy, and then I started to be in relationship with men. And I felt like when I first started dating, while I was healthier, when I was getting healthier, I still had habits of my old self inside of these new relationships. And I will also even say that there were some boys that are gone with the wind child, because I didn't recognize love from them, because love was chaotic, love was sporadic, love was inconsistent. That is what I grew to know what love was. And if it wasn't crazy or toxic, I felt like it was boring, because I had been in constant non-functional relationships. When I found a healthy relationship, I was uncomfortable. I didn't recognize it. I didn't understand it. And then now, in a much healthier place, in relationship with someone that is normal, and that has all the qualities I've been asking for, it is the biggest adjustment. I cannot say the biggest adjustment. Like, because I've been saying this is what I want, but then when you get it, you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is going on here?
Absolutely.
It's hard to get out of a toxic situationship and just situation. But in my opinion, it is just as hard to move on to a healthy one in a healthy way.
Yeah, I think the first part about that is realizing that, like, so I have friends in my life that I argue with, and we're still friends.
Okay.
So it's kind of redefining, like, a relationship isn't all one way. We're going to have arguments. We're not going to agree on things. We're going to have times where I don't even want to be around this person. So it's like redefining, like, everything that happens isn't necessarily toxic.
But how do you know, though?
I mean, I think,
Is it inherent?
No.
You was about to say therapy. Plugging therapy. Okay, so if you find yourself in situations over and over and over again, I also want to be very clear that we are not victim blaming. Like, you can be in an abusive relationship and be the victim of inside of an abusive relationship, whether that's mentally, physically, sexually, whatever it is. That is definitely true. But I hear you when you say, when there's a pattern, you have to look within you, because there is something in you that enabled over and over and over again the same types of patterns to come into your life. And honestly, I'm acting all shocked when you're saying these things, but I made an entire video about dating in Atlanta and talking about how you have to take accountability for yourself and your own actions.
I watched some of that.
Did you?
I did.
Oh, he said he doesn't watch my videos because he said it's weird.
It's a little weird.
Yeah. And I talked a lot about self-accountability in that video.
As a therapist, I can't cure. I'm a micro guy. I am not a macro therapist.
Okay. Meaning, sorry for anyone that doesn't understand what that means. Macro is on like a big scale. Micro is down on the smaller scale. So it's starting with you, because you are the common denominator in every single situation.
Correct.
We don't talk about this. The fact that is the basis of my entire channel. It is so much about, like, you. What are you doing? Yeah. Like, this world will continue to be what this world is, but what are you going to do in this world about it? Because
the external things are, guess what they become? Crutches. I talk about crutches a lot with my clients, where I'll say something to them, and they first thing to do is reach for a crutch.
Why I can't. I don't know how to do that because I can't do that. That's not possible for me. I get that comment a lot, and it makes me really uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable and sad when people say, like, I wish I was like you. I just could never be like that. Or like, oh my God, someone commented and was like, I hate myself, so I can't. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, you hate yourself? Yeah.
And then again, like, in the beginning, my brother, my friend, mentor, they couldn't reflect these things to me. Because I wasn't willing to listen to them, because our relationship is biased, and it's too much in between us as a relationship. Therapist and client, the goal is to have that be a pure relationship where I can say things to clients that their partner would say to them, and they'll listen to me more than their partner.
Yes, the hell they will. Something about someone that's not your partner saying
it's something
that
about
makes you listen, or not your close, intimate
separation.
person.
Yeah, so it's
that
impossible in the beginning to say, hey, one, how do I be my own therapist, or like, how do I get out of this mindset that all relationships are toxic? Because it's just not true. All relationships are not toxic in our community.
Okay, now you're bringing up therapists, clients, client. What I want to wrap on, you talk about how you think that it is not responsible for you to be Googling excessively and trying to give yourself therapy. So the next logical thing is you think that people, if you need to be, you need to be in therapy. I don't think that therapy is very accessible. That is my personal opinion. Can you please give the people resources, because you think that therapy is accessible to all? Well, you know that therapy is accessible to all.
I mean, the main place people go is Psychology Today, where you can filter it through your town, your city, and kind of start to look with if you have insurance, if you have Medicaid, Medicare, if you're kind of over 65. There's services everywhere. Okay. Now, are there certain places in the country, some rural areas where there may not be as much accessibility? Yeah. But I don't subscribe to the theory that like therapy isn't accessible to everybody. Okay. I mean, where I live, it's a program that I work with called like, it's Therapists of Color. So it's all people of color therapists. And they offer scholarships to clients that can't pay for therapy.
You need to hit me up with that.
They're a grant funding program, but I'm pretty sure give me 5 minutes in any city, any place, we can find resources for you. Me saying I don't want to get help with myself because no one can help me or I don't have the resources, it's not true. But do I think that each client can find the resources themselves? No. So what I do is I take all the phone calls. I take a phone call when I know for fact, one, they can't afford my services and it's not a niche that I want to work with. So I'll take the call just to say, hey, I know I don't work with this particular population, but like, hey, call these 3 people and I guarantee one of these 3 people will be able to provide services for you.
Okay, so if a person watches video today and they're inspired to get therapy and they do not have insurance, what is the first thing that you would tell them to do? I
mean, I think the local mental health centers, they're nonprofits and that they're like state-funded facilities. So every city, like I live in Denver, Colorado, there's one in Aurora Mental Health Center. They provide services to underserved communities that don't have the resources to pay for therapy. Okay. In the beginning, it's like, hey, I don't have all the resources to pay for therapy. So what has to happen is I may not in the beginning be able to pick the specific therapist I work with. And that's what I'm saying with these unrealistic expectations, because before I got my life together, I couldn't say, hey, I want a therapist that's between the age of 35 and 40, that's Black, that drives a BMW, that has this. I had to be willing to kind of start where I was at resource-wise. Okay. So the expectation is like, hey, I don't have insurance right now. So I may end up with a white female therapist. And that's okay.
That's scary for some people.
It's scary. But the goal is like, how do I start to get some momentum? If I don't start, I never start. But momentum of like, hey, with this white female therapist, I may not talk about childhood trauma. I may not talk about culture things. But what I may talk about is like, how do I consistently keep a job, consistently stop moving apartment to apartment, and actually understand like that I need to kind of maybe leave this relationship that's not really healthy.
Okay, so you said look for community sources.
Community health agencies is the biggest thing.
And also some therapists are on sliding scales, right?
Yeah, you find a lot of therapists that are willing to take sliding scales.
Okay, I've also seen ZocDoc. That's like a new one where like you can see like people reviewing the person and you can check for insurance. I think that there's like a website that's like lists like all for Black women, like Black female like therapists.
It's one called blacktherapist.org or something like that. Yeah. But what happens is with that, a lot of the Black therapists don't advertise on there. So you're gonna want to use the bigger resources like Psychology Today. Okay. If you're in private practice, you're going to be on Psychology Today because it's the most recognized platform for advertising.
So if I have insurance, you would go
Psychology Today and just filter it to the insurance you have. What I say is don't filter to color.
Don't filter. Okay.
Don't filter to color, but just browse and read some websites and do as many consultations as possible. Because if I limit myself, I may miss an opportunity. And then sometimes people don't click the box for Black therapists. And so the Black therapists that you may want to work with may not be popping up on that.
This is wonderful to know. This was such a great conversation.
It was.
Thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate you having me on. And like, I think there is hope, even in the midst of like what we perceive as like the truth. You know, we have to find our own truth within this environment that we grow up in. And it is possible.
Period.
And clients don't believe it in the beginning, and nor should they. That's my responsibility.
I love that. Okay, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for being here, for having me, or not for me having him. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you guys got a really good perspective on like therapy and enjoyed this conversation. If you have any questions for Mr. Jeremy, make sure that you drop them down below. Are you going to be in the comment section trying to answer some questions?
I'll be in the comment section.
All right, period. I'll have all of his information for his practice listed down in the description box. You're accepting new clients.
Accepting new clients.
And that is going to be it for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you liked me having a guest, let me know and I'll have more guests. Remember to keep positivity in your life because positivity breeds positivity, and we have absolutely no time for negativity in 2023. I'll see you guys super duper soon in the next episode. Bye, guys.
Say
bye.